What's up, everybody? It's JT Sports back to you guys with another video. In this video, I'm here with my Week 1 preseason preview between the LA Chargers and the Arizona Cardinals. Now, before I begin, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos and content. Upload NFL videos and NFL content daily. And let's get into it. So this game, we get to see the debut of my guy, Kyler Murray, who was the #1 overall pick in this year's NFL draft. He kicked Josh Rosen to the curb. He got traded to the Dolphins. So he is expected to start in this game. He is expected to be in for a couple of series. And it's going to be really interesting seeing how he does in his Cliff Kingsbury offense, which is also another thing to watch. Now, Kyler Murray, this is a guy who a lot of people are giving praise to, considering him the best dual threat quarterback to ever come out, and I think that's pretty accurate. But I kind of want to see him proving this on the end game action, and we kind of want to see where he's at in terms of where he is from a talent standpoint at the NFL level, and how his game is kind of going to translate into the NFL. Now, obviously, most of these players aren't really going to be going 100%, really kind of going to be going 75, 60%. So we really can't determine how good he's going to be in his NFL career based on this preseason game or the whole entire preseason. But we can get a pretty good measuring stick on where he is from a talent aspect and where he is from a developmental aspect. So Kyler Murray is definitely going to be a guy who I'm going to be keeping my eyes on. Then the Arizona Cardinals offense, because Cliff Kingsbury there, how much is he going to show in this preseason game, and how many formations is he going to show and things like that, and how's this air raid offense really going to translate? So I really want to see how this air raid offense does in this preseason game, even though we probably won't be seeing Cliff Kingsbury pull out all the tricks and things like that in this game. But I just want to see the little bit of what he has to offer in this game, which I believe we'll see a little bit of glimpses of it. Then for the LA Chargers, you have a position battle there. You got a position battle for that starting right guard spot. You got Michael Schofield, who was pretty solid last year, versus Forrest Lamp, who was a guy who they drafted a couple of years back, but hasn't really been able to stay healthy. And I don't even think he started an NFL game yet. So going to be really, really important seeing who has a pretty solid game here, because that's going to be determining who ends up winning that starting right guard spot there between Michael Schofield and Forrest Lamp there. And both of those guys are pretty solid offensive guards there. Michael Schofield had a pretty solid Pro Football Focus grade. Forrest Lamp, from what I've been reading, has been pretty solid in camp and in the offseason so far. Then the second thing to watch is who could end up replacing Melvin Gordon, if Melvin Gordon does intend to be true to his word and holds out during the regular season, if he doesn't get a new contract or he doesn't end up getting traded. So you got Austin Eckler there, who a lot of LA Chargers fans are really high on. This is a guy who had a lot of production last season. Even when Melvin Gordon was a starting halfback, he was still able to make plays there as well. Then you got Justin Jackson there. Justin Jackson is a guy who appeared in a couple of games. I believe he started one. I forgot what game it was, but I believe he was pretty solid in that game as well. So it's going to be interesting which one of these halfbacks end up being the starting RB1 when the season begins in a couple of weeks. And both of these guys should be able to have pretty good success when the regular season comes around, since the offensive line is one of the best in all of football. Now, some players to watch for the Arizona Cardinals. Obviously, we're going to be watching Kyler Murray. Where is he going to be at from a developmental standpoint? How good is he going to be at the NFL level in the preseason? Then you got wide receivers. You got Kevin White. Now, Kevin White has been really, really interesting. This is a guy who was a first-round pick for the Chicago Bears a few seasons ago, and this is a guy who hasn't really been able to stay healthy at all in the couple of years that he's been in the league. So I think this is a game that's really important for him to see how good he's going to be and where he's at from a talent standpoint. Then you got Andy Isabella, Keyshawn Johnson, Hakeem Butler. All three are rookie wide receivers who they drafted in this year's NFL draft. Keyshawn Johnson has been the biggest story of training camp coming out of that wide receiver position when we talk about all the rookies that they have. He's a guy who a lot of people have been really, really impressed of. And it's really no surprise, because this is a guy who at Fresno State had more production than what Devontae Adams had at Fresno Bears don't stand. We already know how good Devontae Adams is, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL coming into this season. So it's going to be interesting seeing him in this game. Also, you got Andy Isabella in there. Going to be interesting seeing what he does there at that slot receiver position. Then you got Hakeem Butler. Now, Hakeem Butler is really interesting because he's really raw, in my opinion. Still has a lot of things he needs to work on, specifically when it comes to his route running, which I believe his route running needs a lot of tone, polish, and development there. So I think this is going to be an interesting game for him. But mostly he could end up being a red zone target for the Arizona Cardinals when the season kicks around in 2019. Then you got tight end Caleb Wilson. Caleb Wilson was Mr. Irrelevant. He was the last pick of this year's NFL draft, and I think he might end up being the best Mr. Irrelevant in history because this guy is really, really talented. This is a guy at UCLA, had a lot of production at UCLA, and you don't really see a Mr. Irrelevant like a Caleb Wilson come around every once in a while. So I think this is a guy who can end up making this roster for the Arizona Cardinals and can end up having a very big impact because he was a very good tight end when he played for UCLA, and I was very surprised that he ended up going to the second round when I ended up having a higher draft grade on him. And also, I want to see what he does in this game. I want to see how many times he's going to end up getting targeted and things like that because this is a guy who I'm really excited to see, have a lot of high expectations for him. Then you got defensive end Zach Allen. Going to be interested seeing him. You got cornerback Byron Murphy. This is a very, very pivotal game for him because, well, the whole entire preseason is because this is a guy who is going to be filling in for Patrick Peterson or might end up becoming that starting quarterback one when Patrick Peterson is serving his suspension this year for the first couple of weeks. So it's going to be pivotal that Byron Murphy has a very good preseason so he can have some confidence going into the season if he is inserted at that starting lineup at one of those cornerback positions, which we believe that he will be because he was a second-round pick. So this preseason is very big for him when it comes to having a good outing and building confidence when the regular season begins. Then you got safety Deontay Thompson. This is a guy whose draft stock dropped heavily, so I want to see what he's going to be able to do in this game as well. Now my players to watch for the LA Chargers. You got rookie quarterback Easton Stick versus Cardale Jones. Now, Easton Stick was a guy who I thought was really, really overrated. Before the NFL Combine and things like that, people are overhyping this guy, calling this guy the next Carson Wentz. For some reason, every time it's a big quarterback that comes out of Division II football, people always compare them to Carson Wentz and things like that. But I wasn't really that high on Easton Stick. I wasn't really that impressed with what he did at North Dakota there. So this is going to be a game that's going to kind of open my eyes for how good Easton Stick really is. Then you got Cardale Jones. Cardale Jones has been in the NFL for a couple of seasons now, so this guy has to show me something. Haven't really saw a lot of this guy there, so I think this is the season now, and especially in this game where we need to see where Cardale Jones is from where he's going to be at from a talent standpoint. So I think this is going to be a big game for him and determining who ends up sticking on the roster. Is it going to be Easton Stick or is it going to be Cardale Jones? Because I think one of these guys are going to end up getting cut because both of these guys won't be backups because they already got Tyrod Taylor. So I think this is going to be a big battle to see who ends up getting that last quarterback spot if the LA Chargers even choose to have a third quarterback on their roster. Then at the halfback position, like I said earlier, Austin Eckler, Justin Jackson, going to be interesting watching these two throughout preseason because both of these guys could potentially be jockeying to see who ends up replacing Melvin Gordon for that starting halfback if Melvin Gordon does intend to sit out this season until he gets a new contract or gets traded. Then wide receiver I want to be watching is Travis Benjamin. Now, Travis Benjamin is supposed to be a very good deep threat. I haven't really saw a lot of Travis Benjamin last season, so I really want to see where he's going to be at because this is a guy who's supposed to be a very solid deep threat, and I haven't really heard a bunch of them out of the last couple of seasons. So I really want to see what he does in this game as well. Then, like I said earlier, you got that position battle for that starting right guard position between Forrest Lamp and Michael Schofield. Both of those guys really solid there. Can't go wrong with whoever ends up winning that battle there. Kind of want Forrest Lamp to win it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Michael Schofield prevailed and ended up winning it. So that's going to be something I want to be watching there. Then you got defensive tackle Jerry Tillery, who is a guy who was very underrated going into this year's NFL draft. A lot of people had a second-round grade on him, had him going in the first round to the LA Chargers, which I got that pick right. So I want to see what he does in this game. Not expecting him to be in that game for very, very long. I think we might see him play in a couple of series or two, and then he could end up coming out. And lastly, the safety position, because they are absolutely loaded at safety. They have a lot of talented defensive backs and safeties on their roster. So we're going to be focusing on Nazir Adderley and Adrian Phillips. Now, Nazir Adderley was a small school guy who kind of rose up the draft boards near the combine, and he really impressed a lot of people. He almost snuck into the first round, I believe. So Nazir Adderley is going to be a guy who's going to be trying to start arm at one of those same positions alongside Derwin James. And then you got Adrian Phillips there as well, who is a pretty solid backup as well. So both of those guys are going to be guys who I'm going to be watching in this preseason matchup. And this is it for my LA Chargers versus Arizona Cardinals Week 1 preseason preview. Let me know some guys who you guys are going to be watching down in the comment section down below. Also, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos and content. And thanks for watching.